USC has taken the month of September to basically bludgeon anybody in the West Coast, and they will probably continue that on Saturday against Arizona State. We got Steve Merrill here from Wager Talk TV, also wagertalk.com to break down the week 4 matchups. And this, Steve, not one of the better ones, but we, of course, have a USC channel. Want to provide those folks with some information here. As I understand it, Arizona State is down to their 4th string quarterback. They have injuries galore. They beat Southern Utah by a field goal. They lost to Fresno State in shutout fashion. They're hurting in a big way, and USC doesn't necessarily take mercy on too many teams.
Yeah, exactly. And as you know, Mark, over the last several years, I've pointed this out a lot of the games we've analyzed. I pretty much default to big favorites or pass. I don't like the buy and hope mentality, whether it's the buy and hope of the stock market or the buy and hope with big underdogs. I like to look for teams that can roll, and obviously USC could roll in this game, but it doesn't look like the most focused spot for them after 3 straight home games. And then guess who they have on deck next week? Colorado on the road. This is what we call a sandwich spot. The question becomes, can Arizona State do anything about it? Probably not. And as you mentioned, they're coming off a shutout loss, 4th string quarterback, 8 turnovers. It's just like this is a situation where I don't want anything to do with Arizona State, a team that's going to probably have multiple turnovers in this game. And it's basically Arizona State if you're going to play it, but I think there's better games on the board. And one thing I will say as a professional sports bettor, the biggest edge you have is the fact you don't have to play every game, but they have to put a number on every game, and you pick your spots. My database simulation, 10,000 game simulation, actually has USC winning by only 30. Most of the time, my database favors big favorites. So once again, that shows how inflated this line is, that there is actually value with Arizona State. So if you're going to play this, I actually would take the plus 34.5. Another angle, Ralph Michaels over at wagertalk.com, one of my colleagues, does a lot of great posts on Instagram, a lot of charts and data. We call him the chart master, the stat daddy. These type of big favorites on the road laying this type of numbers in conference games are like 4-12 against the spread over several years. It does not happen often, and they've only been about a 25% play ATS. So there's actually several reasons to back Arizona State, but there's even more reasons probably not to. But once again, if I'm going to play this game, I would take the adjusted line value plus 34.5, which is something I don't say too often.
And of course, we love to provide the information on all these games, and we'll take it from Steve. But probably the biggest thread of wisdom in there was to stay away, because I don't know that we've heard of too many conditions like Arizona State out of a major school that they have to deal with this week against this kind of opponent. It's just, this thing could be 49 zip at half. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's the thing, Mark. It's concerning when a team gets shut out, because that's not a fluke. In modern college football, you don't see a lot of shutouts, or the NFL, because there's so much offense now. And Arizona State does not have what we call backdoor cover potential. And USC is an explosive offensive team. They're averaging 59 points a game. So even if Arizona State is slightly above average defensively, and by the way, they're only allowing 4.5 yards per play. They're only allowing 25.5 points a game. That's another reason you can make a case for them catching 34.5. We're a month into the season. That's almost 10 points less than they're allowing. So there are some things that jump out. But you really do have to think, if you're back in Arizona State, this game has to stay under the 62. That's probably the biggest certainty of the week, is if you're going to play Arizona State, you probably want to sprinkle something on the under, because I don't see how they cover unless it's a low-scoring game.
Yeah, and I don't mention 49 points in the first half by USC by mistake. That was intentional. They put up 49 in the first half against Stanford, another woeful Pac-12 team. All right, you can join Steve on Wager Talk, of course, wagertalk.com, Wager Talk TV, and the exclusive Under the Radar selection delivered by Steve for us right here at the Voice of College Football. So Patreon members, you're in good shape, patreon.com/MarkRogersTV, and also YouTube members, you as well. And Steve is 2-0 this season on his Under the Radar selection. Oh, yeah. 13-1 last season, so he's on a 15 out of 16 run on those under the radar selections. Steve, thanks so much for stopping by.
Hey, thanks, Mark.